that expensive. Okay? It's called risk. All right? I'm also a Florida licensed insurance agent, so I understand risk. So therefore, as far as, and then finally, the Social Security stipend that goes in. There's still part of that that will go into part of a Social Security. So it'll be a mix, is what I think needs to have happen. But we have to honor the commitments we have made to those who have honored their commitments to us. And that is the people that are at retirement age now and that are clearly in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. We have to honor those commitments. Medicare, Medicaid, I'll be honest with you, the current health care bill increases Medicaid by 15%. Okay? That's unsustainable. That is just unsustainable. And so that's why there is a serious sense of urgency that we have to repeal that health care bill. I mean, as far as Medicare, that bill also pulls out of Medicare $525 billion out of Medicare. So I think that's unsustainable as well. One of the things we cannot do, though, and I feel very, very strongly about the doctors, we are literally forcing our doctors out of the profession that they love. This month, another 21% cut in Medicare reimbursements. I'm sorry? I'm going to tell you something. They'll take everything you love, and if you think they won't, they're coming after everything you own, including your guns. Well, hey man, I hear you. They better be packing when they come to my house. Okay? So, but I'm going to tell you something. If you don't think that they have got targeted everything that you consider free, then you're naive. I'm just telling you. That's a fact. A couple more questions. Yes, sir.
What about illegal immigration and the anchor baby law that is also putting a burden on the whole fabric of our society in so many ways? You know, it's the federal's job to enforce border security. They don't enforce their own laws, and we pay the burden. We have to pay for their medical. They get more rights than citizens have. So as if you were a congressman, what would you do and how would you propose to do it? You know, being as we take back the House in 2010 and
Sure.
2012.
Well, last year I was on the border in El Paso with General Hank Morrow of the 1st Air Force, 2-star general. I flew to El Paso. I looked at our security measures along the fence and the resources that they have, and they need more. So I believe very strongly, and I'm going to go back to, you know, we hold these truths to be self-evident. I mean, I'm a big common sense kind of guy, and when I was a kid, my dad taught us how to, we were out in the boat and started taking on water. Before we started bailing, we started looking for the hole. That's just, we hold that truth to be self-evident. That if we don't find the hole in the boat, we're going to sink. It's common sense. I think the hole in the boat right now is we got people pouring over our borders. And I think that what we've got to do is seal those borders. I want to read something to you that I pulled off the Department of Justice website. Our illustrious Attorney General, Eric Holder. And he writes these words. He says, "We will make certain that those responsible clean up the mess they have made and restore or replace the natural resources lost and injured in this tragedy. And we will prosecute to the full extent any violations of the law." A little bit farther down he says, "There are a wide range of possible violations under these statutes, and we will closely examine the actions of those involved. If we find evidence of illegal behavior, we will be forceful in our response. We have already instructed all relevant parties to preserve any documents that may shed light on the facts surrounding this disaster. As our review expands in these days ahead, we will be meticulous. We will be comprehensive. We will be aggressive. And we will not rest until justice is done." Now, how nice would it be if that individual who loves secular humanism and relativism would apply the same standard to immigration laws as he just stated to the oil spill? So, I'm sorry?
What about all the ones that are here?
Well, and that's where I disagree. And I don't disagree very much with President Reagan, but that's where I disagree with President Reagan. President Reagan gave them amnesty. And what did he say to all of those thousands of people coming from other nations that are following the rules? First of all, I would go over, okay, to INS and fire them all. okay? Because they are incompetent, okay? Immigration services are incompetent because it shouldn't take somebody who loves to work, loves their family, wants to create a future for them, and they want to be a productive part of this country, just like your great-great-great-great-grandparents were. They're the same. They love their families. Those people should be able to come to this country and go through a process and be able to be assimilated into the American culture and to be made to understand that they have to speak English. Okay? And then come into this country and realize that, you know what, as long as you're putting food on the table, you will always have a meal here. Those families, sir, should have a right. And what do you say to those families that are willing to pay the sacrifice and the money to come here when you're going to give amnesty to those who have illegally crossed our border? I say that great leadership is consistent. And it is consistent whether you're talking about oil spills, or whether you're talking about immigration, or whether you're talking about energy, or whether you're talking about education. Great leadership is consistent because great leadership is disciplined and it is courageous and it is consistent. So therefore, I think that you got to stop the border. Period. You got to seal the borders, and then.
I'm going to say at the same time, though, how do you afford to support 12 million people?
Well, first of all, let me say this. I do believe, you know, you're looking at you know, I'm sure that inside that, and there's debates on how many, 15 million, 20 million, you know, I don't know. First of all, I would go to our prison systems and I would empty about 40% of all the prisoners that are in our prison systems. Okay? And I'm going to tell you, we're feeding them 3 squares a day. They make up almost 40% of our total prison population in the United States. Okay? I don't care what you did, but you're not staying here. Okay? We cannot afford to keep you. Because not only are you not paying taxes, but now we're feeding you. We're providing you lights and water, and plasma TVs, and gym memberships, and a library, and internet access. We've lost our mind, people. We've lost our mind. So I would start there first, and I would pack them up, and I would clearly send them back. Okay? Because every one of those, it's not just you're sending back people that aren't being productive, but now you're sending back people that are clearly costing you. Okay? It's a lost leader for us. So that's where I would start. I do believe in a work visa. Okay? I do believe that people should be able to come here. Again, and I believe that people that are here honestly, people that want to provide, listen, Americans do not have the corner market on loving their families and want to provide more. But we are a nation of laws. And those laws must be honored. And there are penalties when those laws are not. So you start with the biggest liabilities first. And I think the biggest liabilities for the American people right now are clearly the ones that are incarcerated. And then, sorry.
One more.
Yes, ma'am, you deserve a question.
We can anticipate some pretty hard economic times.
Absolutely.
I want to know that you will support our state sovereignty and support our new governor and keep out federal stimulus money from our state so they don't control what we do.
Well, listen, I think, yes, you have my commitment on that before I go any further. My business hasn't received a single dollar of stimulus money. Has anybody here in small business received any stimulus dollars? Okay. And so that's a joke. Okay. And so I'll support our governor. I will tell you this, I'm a huge believer in the 10th Amendment, and I think it's about time that our governors and our individual states rise up and take their country back. And I noticed that, you know, we had about 1920 that were getting in line to file suit against the health care bill, and it thrills me that those states are showing some courage. And you know what? They're hearing the applause of the people. And so they're getting their legs up under them. And it's easier to take that second, third, and fourth step when you've been applauded and you've been congratulated for taking that first very brave step. So we need to support our leaders who are willing to say, you know what? And I learned this about a month ago, I guess. I was at the Heritage Foundation in Washington, D.C., and it was made very clear to me that I'm the citizen of 2 places. I'm a citizen of the United States, and I'm also a citizen of Florida. Never thought about that. PhD, very smart man there, was educating me on that. And I believe that when you have a state, the Arizona law, for example, the Arizona law, which if you read the law, and by the way, I'm unlike any of the other members of the administration, and I have read the law, it is based on concurrent law. It's saying that we're not going to overstep our boundaries and step on the rights of the federal government, but there's nothing wrong for us doing what the federal government is also doing as long as we don't overstep or prevent the federal government from doing their job. But we already know that the federal government will not do its job. Okay? And so therefore, I think that the biggest challenge that those who file suits against that Senate Bill 1070, I think their biggest challenge is going to come that law, as designed, they threaded an incredible needle in the wording of that law through something called concurrency. That nowhere does a state not have the right to do something as long as it doesn't supersede, okay, or prevent the federal government from doing what the federal government has the constitutional right to do. And Arizona would not prevent the federal government from doing what they're constitutionally supposed to be doing, but they just know they won't. And so therefore, I think that the challengers of that law have a very difficult challenge, because if you read that wording, they were smart, and it's going to be an incredible challenge.
Steve, just one question before you get interrupted there. Several weeks ago, you gave a very good explanation down in Brantford about the value-added tax, the fair tax, and the current tax that we have here in this country. Would you just take a few minutes, if you would, just to explain to the audience your position on that?
I can't answer that in 20 seconds. First of all, let me say, I will say this, and I can't answer that in 20 seconds, and since he was the person that invited me, I'm going to honor him. So now I have 10 seconds to tell you that the fair tax is obviously a proposal like the flat tax versus the current the current tax system we have. Those are options. The VAT tax is something totally different. Okay, so I want to make sure that you understand that the VAT tax, okay, is like a slow boil. It's like putting a frog in a heating pot. And it'll tax everything, and before we know it, we will be like Europe, and we will have 70 and 80% tax on everything we purchase. So the two very, very different systems, but unfortunately my time's up. I'll stay here and answer that question, though, individually if I'm asked.
Yeah. I'm going to give you another 30 seconds if you want to ask these folks to support you, contribute.
Only if you give me that opportunity. This is a critical year, okay? A critical year. It is going to be important that we have someone that represents you that knows the difficulties that you know in your business, that understands business, that understands God, family, values, country, and I am honored to be a part of this race. If you would allow us to represent you on August 24th, I will do everything within my power to honor your trust, to acknowledge your trust, to listen to you, to be teachable to the people that I want to represent. I need your help. I would ask you before you go tonight, please grab some of our material. Go to our website, SutherlandForCongress.com. If you go onto our website, you'll see issues pages that talk about the issues. I'm a person who's built my life upon absolute truth. It never changes. So a lot of those positions that you'll see on those issues page, that's not going to change. But go on there, call us. There's a phone number. Email us if you have any questions. I would be happy to meet with you. We'll be coming back over a lot. This is our third time over to the east side of the district. We're going to be back over next Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We need your support. We need your vote. We need you to tell your family, your friends, be committed to take your country back. We unfortunately made this mess. We did. I was born in a home where personal responsibility was taught. And so Dad, before he would spank me, he made me understand, I made that mess. And after you get your spanking, and we pray, you're going to go clean it up. America, we made this mess. I think this year, I really believe, we're going to clean it up. God bless you.